Hi, and welcome to another Lake Mead and Colorado River Watch update. Just last month, we were discussing the cool weather streak lingering over the southwest, when suddenly, the whiplash of summer finally came. With it, record highs and several seasonal hazards like fire returned as well, even down at Lake Mead.
It's terrible.
As the reservoir continues to drop, old secrets are re-emerging, and you might be wondering, where did all that late spring rain and snowmelt go? We're going to break it all down and check on our water levels today, so let's jump right in. Now, last update, we were just gloating about how great these last 2 years have been to the southwest in terms of rain and snow. The storm systems were plentiful around Lake Mead and the Las Vegas Valley, all the way up north through the Sierras and over to the Rockies. Systems consistently dropped rain at the lower elevations and snow at the higher ones well into May. Just a few weeks after that report, though, the whiplash of summer finally came, and the first 100-degree day descended on the Las Vegas Valley on May 17th, over a month earlier than last year. Some sources were even predicting a hotter-than-normal summer now this year, citing the end of an El Niño phase and the beginning of a La Niña. Whatever the cause, it looks like we didn't completely avoid the so-called whiplash effect that we covered in our cloud seeding update, as Las Vegas continued to break record high temperatures. On June 6th, a new high was set at 111 degrees, breaking the previous record of 110 set back in 2010. 1 day later, on June 7th, another record was set at 110, breaking the previous high of 109 on that day back in 2013. It has been hot out there. With these hot and dry temperatures, several seasonal hazards have returned to the southwest as they do every year, including, of course, wildfires and man-made fires. Just after midnight on Sunday, June 13th, an accidental fire apparently started from under a houseboat docked at the Las Vegas boat harbor. A security guard working that night recounts the event.
Oh, it spread it like within minutes. Within minutes, it was like a rapid boat to boat to boat to boat, and then the sea dudes traveled across the lake and burnt some more boats on our dock.
The hot overnight temperatures, combined with high winds, created a blowtorch effect and allowed the flames to quickly jump between vessels and docks.
It's terrible. Now our dock's on fire.
In the end, 11 boats were destroyed, 26 more were damaged, and the dock infrastructure will once again need repairs. The cause of the fire is still under investigation, and authorities have seemingly not ruled out arson yet. This comes as yet another blow to the same marina that was just damaged back in August of last year from the remnants of Hurricane Hilary moving across southern Nevada. Just west of Las Vegas, the so-called Bird Springs fire inside Red Rock Canyon National Conservation Area burned around 150 acres. Thanks to a quick response by firefighters from the BLM, Nevada Division of Forestry, and the U.S. Forest Service, the fire was contained within 2 days. It was later discovered that the cause of the fire was from illegal target shooting. BLM officials estimate that around 80% of the wildfires in the area are man-made and/or preventable. Next door in neighboring states, the Post Fire in California and multiple wildfires in Arizona all drifted into the Las Vegas Valley and over Lake Mead. The hazy air rendered some of the Las Vegas Strip's landmarks difficult to see, and it was bad enough for Clark County officials to issue a smoke alert, warning people not to stay outside or breathe in the air longer than necessary. So how is all this heat affecting Lake Mead and the Colorado River system? Well, according to the USBR and a new evaporative losses study, an estimated 10% of the total yearly flow of the Colorado River is lost due to evaporation alone, with most of that happening in the lower basin. And since these losses were not figured into the current 100-year-old river compact, it seems evaporation is going to be a hot-button issue in the new 2026 compact negotiations. We'll find out why in just a minute. For now, let's see how this heat has affected our reservoir levels. Lake Mead is currently sitting at 1,064 feet above sea level, dropping another 4 feet since our last report, and continuing a fairly large plunge of over 10 feet since March. The capacity fell from 35% to 34% full. Lake Mead is still around 9 feet higher in elevation than this same time last year, but is now rapidly trending back towards 2023 levels. As of this report, the current inflows at Lake Mead total just over 123% of average for the water year, while outflows to California, Arizona, and beyond total right around 71% of the required yearly minimum release, which is due by October 1st. You can see from these numbers that despite Lake Mead's drop, it hasn't been a bad water year at all for the reservoir, as it has received a bit more water than average this year. And if we take a look at the weekly release rates in late June, Mead was releasing around 150% the amount of water that it was receiving. So where is the rest of that spring runoff? To find the answer, we have to look at Lake Powell upstream. Taking a look at Lake Powell today, an opposite story is unfolding, as the water elevation sits at 3,580 feet above sea level, rising over 15 feet since last report, and closely mimicking its recovery last year in 2023 after the high flow release experiment. As we previously covered, the USBR was predicting a rise of 20 to 50 feet at Lake Powell through early July, and it looks like we are already near that lower threshold. The only difference is, there hasn't been any high flow release experiment yet this year, and Lake Mead downstream has suffered as we're seeing. You can find out why in our Glen Canyon Dam piping video if you want to learn more. I'll leave a link here and down in the description. But with the USBR focused on maintaining Lake Powell and the Glen Canyon Dam, Lake Mead is predicted to continue declining through 2025. With it, old secrets are emerging once again, like the skyward boat, which we really haven't seen now since late 2023. It might be time to get out and do another boat wreck hunt video or a before and after. Let us know down in the comments if you want to see one of those. For now, as we look ahead to 2026, many of you have been wondering what's been going on with the new river compact. Things really seem to quiet down after all the lower basin states agreed to the water cuts and payouts aimed at holding everyone over until then. Recently, though, a new report from the USBR highlighted a contentious issue that could be at the heart of the 2026 negotiations. As mentioned earlier, in a new Lower Colorado evaporation losses report, the USBR has estimated that around 10% of the total Colorado River flow is lost due to evaporation. These losses traditionally were not factored into the river usage compact or negotiations. With this new report from the USBR, however, that may all change. The upper basin states, who draw their share of water straight from the river itself, claim that only the lower basin states should have to reduce their river usage and account for the evaporative losses, since this is where most of the loss occurs. The lower basin, though, who draws their allocation from water stored in Lake Powell and Lake Mead, argues that the entire Colorado River basin should help share the burden of all the cuts. Despite the reluctance to agree over the evaporative losses, Reclamation did finalize an agreement between Arizona, California, and New Mexico. In mid-May, the three states agreed to cut water use by 3 million acre-feet through the end of 2026, when the current operating guidelines expire and the new rules should take effect. As we previously covered, the lower basin states are receiving federal funding in exchange for making these cuts. Another point of agreement between all the basin states is that water managers should use actual hydrologic conditions to determine how to operate Lake Mead and Lake Powell, instead of the unreliable forecasts that have traditionally been used up to this point. Progress on the new agreement slowly but surely moves forward. After evaluating all the proposals and alternatives, the Bureau of Reclamation aims to complete a draft environmental impact statement for post-2026 river operations by the end of this year. These statements will set the framework for what could happen next. Until then, we'll continue to watch the water situation for you, and after we take a much-needed break from YouTube and head out to enjoy some summer adventures, we'll be back with more updates and even better content shortly. We appreciate you river watchers for being patient, as this is just a hobby for us outside the grind, and your viewership and support is what allows us to continue. Since we know you have a lot of places to get your news and entertainment these days, we definitely want to thank you for spending some of that time here. Special recognition goes out to our Super Thanks viewers from last month. We got our frequent floater Sammy Head, wow, doing work here. Thank you, I had to go back so I can verify your badge count. And we also got Boogie Hugh from last month too. Outstanding, thank you for supporting small creators like us. The Super Thanks are always unexpected, but much appreciated, and you folks are what keeps the lake updates coming and motivate us to make more. And because you folks are all so awesome, we're currently putting together our third ever viewer give back stash, and we've been gathering some really cool Lake Mead themed items for this one. so make sure to stay tuned and watch for the clues in the future. If you found this update informative or learned something of value here today, consider giving us a like and subscribing to the channel for more. Don't forget to stop by the Mojo Earthworks shop on Etsy also. We're just starting out, but we'll continually add things as time goes on. Until then, make sure you stay hydrated, stay happy out there, and we'll see you soon.